this is not a stressful environment. It's meant for you to ask any questions you have related whatsoever to electric vehicles, to Teslas. We have club leaders on this call that have Model X, Model S, Model 3, Model Y. So we have the whole entire Tesla lineup covered. I've owned my vehicle, my Model 3, for 2 years. John is on the call. He's owned his, I think, a little bit longer than I have. Dan has a Model X. Patrick has a Model S and Model 3. So we have the entire, Jesse has the Model Y. So we have the entire lineup covered. I believe Dan also has a Chevy Bolt. Patrick has a Chevy Bolt as well. So really, this is not just to focus on Tesla. We won't say we're the experts, or we're a good expert panel here on electric vehicles, but we'll also do our best to help out anything electric vehicle related. So you're more than welcome to, I see there's a question in the chat. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat box. You could put a Q just in case there's any other chit chat going on there, but Q just helps differentiate it. So we can go through those. And you're also welcome to use the raise hand icon. I believe it's towards the bottom of there's a little panel on the bottom. You could use the raise hand icon. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question. And yeah, if maybe we'll go ahead and just introduce ourselves. Some of those that are on our call. Jesse, if you want to introduce yourself, where you're from.
Sure. So my name is Jessica Massey. I am a Model Y owner. I have been since May of this year, so I'm relatively new. I've always wanted a Tesla. It's always been my go-to dream car, and I finally have gotten it. So I'm just super stoked. I live in Buffalo, New York, and I am here to answer any questions.
Thanks. Dan, want to go ahead and introduce yourself and what vehicle you have?
Sure. I'm Dan Uvari, and I have a 2020 Model X. This past July 4th weekend was my 1-year anniversary. And I also always wanted a Tesla, but I kept on waiting because I kept hearing all these horror stories, and I was waiting until they got it right. And I kept on hearing the horror stories, and I said, screw it, I'm just going to get it. And I'm so happy I did, because all the horror stories was just a bunch of hooey. So I'm really happy, and I live out in East Hampton Village.
Thanks, Dan. And Patrick, our club president.
Hi, welcome everybody. I've been a Tesla owner since 2014, and the current Model S P100D with Ludicrous is my second one, and my wife drives Model 3. My son also have a Model S, and I totally enjoy the car. The performance and the technology is totally amazing. To me, it's an investment, not just in the vehicle and technology in Tesla, but also into the environment, which right now, when I go drive long distance, I don't have a guilt that I'm leaving any kind of carbon footprint. And to me, this is it's something I appreciate, and I think it's good to be part of that this movement. So if you are not currently an EV owner, I do encourage you to really take a look at EV because it's going to be the vehicle of the future. I mean, there's no turning back. We are in the thick of a revolution. So glad to be part of it. So thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Patrick. And John P. Wexner is on the call right now, but he also looks like he might be a little busy at the moment. John is our...
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Hey, John.
Hi, I'm in public waiting for another meeting, so the Wi-Fi here keeps cutting out, but I'm here. John Wexner, a member since 2018, and my first Tesla event that I helped coordinate was in 2010. So I go way back. We had a Roadster in from Toronto one time, but I'm more than happy to answer questions, especially about charging. That's my sweet spot.
Yeah, I think, John, just before you hopped on the call, John does not have home charging. He charges at public stations. So if you do not have home charging capabilities, John will be able to help us out on that as well. And
I'm charging right now.
Oh, perfect. I guess we'll go ahead and get started. I'll read through a couple. I think I said before too, if you have any questions, you don't have to type into the chat box if you rather speak. Just go ahead and use the raise hand icon, and then we'll go ahead and call on you. So I'll read the first one from the chat box, which is a question. Curious if anyone has had experience installing EV charging in a multi-unit dwelling community, a condo, where parking is unassigned and shared. I own a non-EV PEV. It's plug-in electric vehicle. I'm guessing it's a plug-in hybrid. And and requested approval to install charging for my condo board, and they declined, stating nobody drives EVs. I think they're wrong on that. Not sure what I can do. I have no way to charge at home. John, would you have any input on condo charging or reaching out to a board to get that requested?
Right. New York is a right to charge state, so the condo board is not allowed unless there's an extenuating circumstance that prevents them from allowing you to install a charging station. So that's been passed by the New York state government, so you have that on your side. The question is, how much would it cost to get your own private connection or induce them to put in a community connection? So the best thing would probably be to join a group like in Facebook, there's a charging in apartments and condos, I believe. We can probably try to get that link to you.
Gotcha. Thanks, John.
Yeah, thank you. This is Jacob. I'm the one who asked that question. I just wanted to comment that I did present the state law that passed to my condo board, and their lawyer sent me a cease and desist saying they didn't want to hear about it. The language of the law, just want to make sure it's very clear. This is where I'd want a legal professional to chime in. Does that law only apply if the parking is owned by the unit owner, not shared? That's the key point, because if I had a deeded parking spot, I think that would be a different story. Since it's all common area in my community, shared, I think it adds a little bit more complexity.
Any legal experts on the call? We might not have the answer on that one specifically. Sorry, Jacob.
That's my dilemma. Thank you.
If by the way, before I forget, if there are any questions that we cannot answer, we do have plenty of lawyers in the club. I would suggest putting something in our forums on our website and seeing if anyone might have the answer for you on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anna, I'll go ahead and call on you. I don't know if
this is Dan. I'd like to chime in also. Our club has an agreement with ChargePoint, and we can get ChargePoint to come and talk to your board and talk about all of the different things that are available for your place to get money from other sources that might be able to offset the costs. And they would be silly not to take advantage of this, because by what is it, 2035, you're not going to have ICE cars anymore. So they're going to have to do this. So they could either do it now and get funding, get help funding it, or they're going to wind up doing it on their own dime later. So
yeah, I
set something like that up. We can.
All those NYSERDA incentives, I actually included that on my business proposal for them. But I don't think they want to look at it. So if I could get more weight behind it, someone from ChargePoint, I think that would really help.
I'll go ahead and call. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I believe it's Ona, and you are currently on mute. You'll just have to unmute.
Thank you. This is a little bit of a different direction, and you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. I also, like a couple of you stated, have always wanted a Tesla. In 2012, I purchased a plug-in hybrid. And we keep our cars for 10 years, so I'm soon up for my next car. The hard part I'm having right now, it's a big financial step, which, I think is worthwhile. I can't seem to get into a Model Y. I live just outside of Albany, New York. And it's a little hard to, I want to see what it feels like getting in one, making sure that it feels comfortable. And I'm so tempted, even though I didn't think I'd ever own a Ford, by the Mach-E, because it still has the incentive and it has a similar look to it. So I guess my first question is, did you guys get into your Teslas before you bought them to see what they felt like? Just a general question. And then part of my hesitation also comes from probably, like you've already said, not trustworthy reviews where the 3 and the Y, I've heard get, you know, rattly after a while. They're cheaply made or something like that. So if you could speak to that as well. Thank you.
One thing, and then I'll pass it on to someone else. I'm in the Albany area as well. I don't know if he's on the call, but we have a club leader, a regional organizer here in the Albany area. His name is Howard, I believe it's Kibrick. He has a Model Y. We met with a club member who was actually looking to purchase a Tesla. I have a Model 3. He brought his Model Y. His name is Vince, and we let him take it out for a drive. He ended up getting a Model Y. So while we don't have anything here in the Albany region, sadly, we have a lot of amazing members who will potentially let you take their car out for a ride or a drive or check it out. But I'll pass this on to Jess, as she's had her Model Y for, you said, a little over a month now.
Yeah.
If you want to give some input on that.
Yeah, I'd love to. So I was smiling while you were saying that you don't want to drive, or you don't want to buy a car that you've never driven. So that's actually what I did with my Model Y. I drove the 3 and the S and the X and not the Y. So I sat in every one of those vehicles. And I think the funniest part is I was just so struck by how the Model Y looked and all the functions of it, and just how everybody talked about how much they loved it. And as soon as I pulled the trigger and sat in mine for the first time, I just realized that it was like meant to be. It was perfect. So I would say that if you can sit in one, definitely do, but also watch a lot of the videos online. I know some of the people that do like walkthroughs through their car, and that helped out a lot. But again, I bought it and I didn't drive one, but it drives very, very similar to the Model 3. So maybe test drive one of those if you can't get your hands on a Model Y. But if you're ever in the Buffalo area, I'd be happy to take you first in and you could drive mine. But yeah.
Can I say something here? I've owned the S, the 3, the Y, and I have the Plaid coming, and I'm in New York. And there's all these people online who are Tesla haters who spread misinformation, like there's Rattling. I've never had that in any one of my cars, and they've gone to 50,000 miles plus. They're people who hate Tesla. They're people who are shills for the big 3, and all they do all day is spread misinformation about Tesla, and they're shorting the stock. And so don't listen to those people. It's messed up and it's totally wrong.
Can I a lot of misinformation for sure. Go ahead, Did.
So it's funny with me, like I rode in my buddy's S and I was like, yeah, I'm a Tesla fan. And so we set up I live in Hamburg, New York, so Buffalo. And so we got the test drive we had to go to Rochester, and it's, you only get it for like 30 minutes for like the test drive. So I drove it for 15 minutes. My wife drove it for 15 minutes. She's like, I don't know, see the big deal about it. Because you have those people that you drive one time and you're like, oh, I've got to have this, or it might take them a while. And well, I told her, like, we're getting it anyways. Like, so we got it, and now it's her daily driver, and she will never go back. She's like, oh yeah, sorry, this is my car, and that's fine, whatever makes her happy. But that's the thing. Like, hopefully, there's some members in Albany that'll allow you a little bit more time to sit in it, to make you more comfortable in it and feel it, because it's a huge purchase. And it's something that hopefully you'll have for a very long time. So with something like that, being patient, and hopefully we have some members that'll be able to help you out. And same thing as Jess, if you're ever in Buffalo, I have a Y. I've had it for 6 months. If you want to check it out or whatever, just give us a holler, and we'll definitely take care of you.
Yeah, I've had my Model 3 for almost 2 3/4 years now, and about 34,000 miles. The only rattle I've ever found was having some coins left in the drink holder. That's it. There's no such. I had a Jag before it, and honest to God, after I drove the Model 3 for a while, I was going to keep the Jag because I was a real fan for years, and it was a top of the line XJL. Loaded with everything, even massaging seats and everything else. And I thought I would die with that car. However, after a couple of months of driving around in the Model 3 and having the car sit there in the driveway unused, I got in and said, I better make sure the battery's still okay, and so on. And I was absolutely amazed how noisy and rattly, clumsy, and slow it was. And this is a car I had been in love with before. So it's long gone. I don't miss it at all.
I'm going to go ahead and move on to, thank you, Richard. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Marvin.
Hi, how are you? I have a Model Y. I've had it since May. Dan, I saw at the last meeting we had. I think there's a meeting this weekend or next weekend at Country Point. I had an incident. Well, first of all, no rattles. I sat in a Y, sat in a 3, and I felt the 3 was just a little low. I felt the Y was just a little more comfortable. Couldn't afford an X, so that's why I got the Y. Anyway, very happy with it, no rattles. Last weekend, we were going to dinner. I had somebody in the car who never rode in a Tesla before. Took him 5 minutes to figure out how to open up the front door from the outside. Everybody who has a Tesla knows what I'm talking about. At any rate, he gets in, we get there, and he did something, and I've been very particular not to touch the emergency release handle. So you know where this is going. All of a sudden, the screen lights up because he grabbed the emergency release handle, even though the button that's lit up, he couldn't push it. So my question is, everything seems fine, but I've always heard that you can misalign doors or whatever. Because somebody did it, do I have to be concerned about any ramifications?
To my knowledge, it has to be repeated abuse. If it happens a few times, it's not going to do any damage. But if it happens consistently, I've heard that it can do, there could be some misalignment that occurs due to it. If there's any
I can chime in a little bit on that one. So usually if you push the button, the way the window would drop just maybe a 1/4 inch, okay? And then before you open it. When you pull a manual cable, the window would not drop. So what's going to happen here is if you open the door using the manual handle, the window did not drop. And then next time when you close it, you're not going to get a good seal. So if you use an electric button to open the window, you would notice that the window drop a little bit, then open it. And then the same thing after you close it, the window will rise that 1/4 inch to give you a real good seal, okay? So that's the difference between the electric button and the manual button. So if you consistently use a manual button, the window would not drop. And as you open and close enough time, you're going to damage the seal. That's going to end up going to have rain noise, wind noise, and so on and so forth. So it's not like major damage to your car. It's just that it's a major difference. So once you understand that, that's not a one-time event. Is not going to be something of any concern. So I also want to talk about some rattling. So my Model S, I had some one time I have some rattling sound from the front. Okay, all right. So what happened is that especially if you have a ride height adjustment, the vehicle with that feature. What I didn't know that is at one time I set my car to the highest ride height. Okay, all right. And then in that situation, when I really load the car in acceleration, the U joint may be stressed out because it was in not a normal angle, and sometimes it will cause some noise in there. So once I drop it down to normal height, the rattle sound go away. So so that may be an instance that I had when there's some rattling sound, but it's not the problem with the Tesla. It's just that I set it at the at the top of the height, and then I gun it. Okay, and so if you have that variable height, you might experience that kind of sound, but it's no big deal. Once you get the height back to normal, the sound is going to go away.
Thanks, Patrick. I don't have a name on here, but it's a GWG iPad Pro.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. This is two things. First of all, that lady that was talking about the getting in the car in Albany, there's a Saratoga meetup at the Saratoga Museum. If she wants and she goes to that meetup, I'll surely let her sit in the Y. I have a 2021 Model Y first edition, not the new one. The reason why we got the Y, we originally were going to look at the S. My son has an S. We found that my wife, who is slightly disabled, she has to use a walker. We have a Prius Prime, and it was getting a little difficult for her to get in and out. We got the Y, and she has no problems getting in that. It is the right height. She just gets in, and she can maneuver her legs very easily. Now, as far as my question, I noticed the FSD, the new beta is showing, and there's a comment that it needs a new module. And I was wondering if the same
Sorry, what do you mean by module, just before you go on?
It's they said the new computer, a new, I'm not sure what they're asking about, but does my Model Y, the new 2021, capable of using the new FSD?
So it's a difficult question to answer, right? So as far as I know, I haven't heard anyone from Tesla, anyone official saying that a new computer will be required. You know, over time they've already said, oh, we're already working on hardware 4. You know, improvement. My thought is, and it does not mean I'm right, so don't hold me to it, but if you purchase full self-driving, saying I purchased it, I would assume that you would get the same end product that someone today pays for, or in a year from now, until it is ready for delivery. If for some reason our computers, you know, hardware 3 cannot handle what it needs to do to be able to perform the duties that it's supposed to do, I would assume that they would upgrade that. I don't have the perfect answer, and yeah. Dan,
okay.
Did you have some input?
I was
crossing my fingers.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you had.
Yeah. I think I can help you here, because I have my 2018 Model 3. I did require the replacement of the main module, and it was my understanding that it was because it was an older one. And if it had been within the last year and a half, it would have been fine. So I would assume that yours is okay. But it was done for me in Orlando when we were down there, and there's no charge. So.
All right.
Okay.
I'll go through a couple from the chat now. And once again, feel free, if you have any questions, you could use the raise hand icon. If anything comes to mind, feel free to do that. I have a Tesla Model 3. What is the best non-Tesla fast charger network? ChargePoint, EVgo, etc. If I have literally never used any network besides the supercharger or home charging or just a level 2. If there's anyone with input on this, it's all you.
John on still? Because I'll jump. I can definitely still answer that. I haven't found one better than the other. I guess it just depends on the output of the charger. But in particular, I personally like the charge points. The network's pretty massive, especially here in Buffalo. You could usually find chargers that aren't charge point on their maps, so you'll always be able to like route your destination through their app and find places along the way if it's maybe on the back roads where you're not on a highway and you just really need to stop at like a little town and charge for however long. Usually when I charge at those places, it's like 20 to 30 miles an hour you get in range. So I would highly recommend ChargePoint as my favorite. I'm sure John will probably agree with me, but I don't know if he's on still.
Yep. Can you?
Oh, a little choppy, John.
He might not agree with me because he knows a lot more than I do.
John, yeah, I can't hear you. It looks like your video's frozen. But I'll give a little bit more just in case I didn't fully understand it correctly or but it sounds also like more like it's fast charging, like level 3, whereas we also have the level 2 charge point chargers or a Tesla destination charger. Yeah, I've never used anything more than a level 2 that's third party. So my gym, I go to Vent Fitness here in the Albany area. They have ChargePoint chargers, free charge. So it basically pays itself off. If you go to the gym enough, you drive around enough, you're there for an hour, you get 23 miles of range. It's incentive to go to the gym. So it's been helpful for me for the last 2 years. I'll put it like that. But I've never used anything outside of that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Stephen.
Oh, John, go ahead.
Yeah. The level 2 charging that Jess was just talking about is maybe maximum 30 miles an hour if you're lucky. If you want the fast DC charging, ChargePoint does have fast DC, but not in our area in New York State as far as I know. I have used a Electrify America, which is the Volkswagen settlement, diesel settlement funds. For that, you require what's called the CHAdeMO adapter, not the adapter that's shipped with your car, but a $500 bulky add-on adapter. And the club owns a CHAdeMO adapter that you can rent. And I guess as a Plaid owner, you can borrow it too. So if you do charge with that, it's a maximum of 50 kilowatts, which is 1/3 to 1/5 as much as any Tesla fast charging. So you have to take that into consideration, that Tesla is going to give you the most bang for the buck and is less expensive to begin with.
Yeah, I've driven around all different parts of the state. I've only ever relied on superchargers. I've never had an issue. It's nice if you do have something like John saying, if you're taking a road trip out to North Dakota, maybe where there's not too many superchargers, but they have some level 3 chargers where you could use a CHAdeMO adapter. You know, borrow the CHAdeMO adapter, buy one for yourself if you're going to use it often. But realistically, especially if you're in decently well-populated areas, you are covered by the supercharger network for sure. There's a question by Aaron. Does Tesla plan on incorporating the new Google Android Automotive OS system in the near future? From anything I've heard at all, it doesn't seem like Tesla has any immediate desire to either do Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. I have a feeling it's probably about security. Tesla is they take security very seriously. And for that, I have a feeling they probably just rather leave it out. So as far as I know, as far as anything I've heard, nothing out there yet. Tim has a question. How have Teslas been with the non-ICE specific maintenance repairs? I know brakes last forever on them, but how about other non-uncommon parts like wheel bearings, tie rod ends, and the like? I'll let someone who's owned their Tesla, like Patrick, you've owned them for a long time, John, anything on long-term maintenance, you know, over 3 years?
I can answer that. Basically, as far as suspension system, I haven't had a need for it. Actually, I only did 50,000 miles alignment out of maintenance, not that is needed. So that's just a normal practice just to extend the life of the tires. So far, mechanically, I have no problem with my Tesla after almost 3 years of ownership of my current car. So tires is the most expensive part of it. Other than that, the car washes. I wash my car often, so I spend the money on washing cars. So,
John, you've had yours for 2 years. Any maintenance for you? I know you've done brakes, something I still need to do, but you've done them.
It's going on 4 years, Stephen. Time flies.
How long?
But yes,
you've had your Model 3 for 4 years?
It's 3 years and a few months.
Wow. Okay, good for you.
So here's the concern. Here's the concern. If you are in a salty winter climate, get an annual brake inspection. It's usually under $100. They will make sure that all of the clips are properly, attached, because especially in the rear, it has an automatic electric parking brake, and sometimes it can stick in salty conditions. And you just want to make sure that they will, lubricate and inspect the brake calipers, because Tesla brakes are expensive. Somebody in Toronto once never really used the brakes. They just used regen. And it was something like an $8,000 replacement for the entire brake system on a Model S. Not that that's going to happen. Model 3 and Model Y may even have a more modern caliper setup. But to be on the safe side, when you do an annual sort of look over, make sure that they just peek at the brakes.
Ounce of prevention, right? All right.
And also, I have something to add in there. My son experienced the same situation that John mentioned. He was supposed to go into the service center. Actually, that was in Toronto, because it was before Henrietta came in, and his rear brake was totally frozen into one solid piece. So so they recommend replacement of that one, because it's a safety concern, even though you don't really need to use the rear brakes. So one of the things that from now on I suggest people is that you have to activate the brake calipers every now and then, especially the rear caliper. So now I have a practice that when I enter the car, I will rest my foot on the brake pedal. and then kind of leverage myself to sit down in the seat. By doing that, I will press I put pressure on the brake pedal, and will at least activate the caliper in the rear. So if you do that, if there's anything that might freeze up, you will help it to loosen up or to release it to prevent it happen. So kind of doing that will save you money over the long term. So less wear on my carpet and more actions on the brake caliper. So that's just a suggestion from my experience.
Here's another one from the chat. I had a huge jump in insurance costs with my Tesla Model 3 compared with my previous car, Infiniti QX60 SUV, which actually had a much higher value. Anybody have any suggestions for reducing cost? I'll leave this open to anyone. Insurance.
Get another insurance company. Mine came way down. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right, so shop around for a different insurance company. Any other suggestions on insurance? If you did your price for your vehicle go up once you got to Tesla? Did it go down? Stay roughly the same?
Yeah, I would say shop around as well. That definitely would help. There's a lot of good places that you can do that online, especially like Credit Karma. They have a free service that you could use for that. Mine only went up a little bit, but I mean that was expected. It was a brand new car.
That could be part of it too, depending on how old the car is.
That's what I was thinking too.
I'm with Geico, and it went up slightly, not all that much. I had a 2017 Prius Prime, and I went to the Model Y, so it went up a little bit, but it was not outrageous at all.
Gotcha. So I guess shopping around is probably the best thing in this case. Any tips or tricks on maximizing battery life? So this question will probably, Lisa, this is probably a better question too, especially if you think of ownership versus leasing. If you're owning a vehicle, I bought my car, my Model 3, because I'm like, I want this thing to last me at least 10 years. So for me, I take that a little bit, I take it personally. One thing I'll tell you, don't do, because I do it, don't floor it all the time. I don't, I'm guessing you probably don't have that problem. But the way batteries are not happy when you give them a ton of energy very quickly, or you take away a ton of energy very quickly. So if you supercharge every day or frequently, that could do a little bit more damage to the batteries. If you are constantly gunning it at every red light, but only going to the speed limit, then that'll also do a little bit more damage to the batteries. Charging past 90% is also going to do damage by just putting a lot of, so think of it like a balloon. If you blow up a balloon to its maximum level, it's just, yeah, it will put more stress on it, right? So charging between, I think the recommended is like safe is between like 35, 80. You can go up to 90, but it's recommended not to go past 90. And I think not to leave it past, I forgot what the minimum is, but there's also a minimum that they don't recommend going below. I want to say it's like 15, 20. Yeah, any other tips or tricks on improving or just longevity of battery life?
Yeah, I'm going to chime in. So as an electrical engineer, and I know a lot about lithium ion batteries, it's really 10 and 90. I personally keep my Model X between 20 and 80, but I keep it plugged in all the time. And the 35 low end is really meant as a buffer zone because, as you know, our cars always use charge. So what they're doing is they're saying, don't go to 20 or 10, and then your car uses charge and you wind up finding yourself at 5. So staying at 20 or above is probably a good practice, and going up to 90 is fine. I just go up to 80 because I do, but technically speaking, 90 is fine. And then everything you said, batteries do not like high currents. They just don't. The worst thing you could possibly do to a battery, in order, is to deplete it and let it stay that way, and especially in hot conditions. The second worst thing you could do is charge it all the way to 100% and leave it that way, again in hot conditions. The third thing you could do that's bad to a battery is have high currents. So if you can avoid those things, you're going to have a nice long battery life.
And Dan, you mentioned too, it's recommended. It's in the owner's manual, which is in your vehicle on the dash. You could find it, but it's recommended by Tesla to always leave your vehicle plugged in as much as possible. It's just recommended by Tesla. I'm guessing it's another way of keeping the battery happy and keeping it, longevity. Tesla just recommends every chance you can, just make sure it's plugged in. I don't typically do that. I haven't had terrible battery degradation. Most of mine is probably just from excessive use of the go pedal.
Yeah, but so the number of cycles in a battery, a lot of people get confused and they think, well, 20 half cycles is the same as 10 full cycles. It's not. It's not at all. So a bunch of tiny little microcycles is hardly anything. So if you have a bunch of very small cycles, you're hardly doing anything to your battery. And lithium ion has no memory. It's not like NiCad at all. So do not worry about never going down below. Like if you take your battery and you never go down below 70%, the worst thing that's ever going to happen, and this could happen, it very rarely does, but there's a battery management controller that basically calibrates the battery charge. And you might find yourself, it looks like your battery may have lost energy or lost capacity. And what you could do is you could go down to 10% and then charge all the way up. And then your battery management controller will wind up counting all the coulombs that went down, and then it counts all the coulombs that went back up to 90%, and then it recalibrates itself, and you'll find magically your battery came back to life. That's the worst thing that could ever happen, and it very rarely does.
Dave, you have some input?
Yeah, just a question. So you said always keep it plugged. So we have scheduled charging on ours because we have like the on-peak, off-peak hours for our electric company.
That's fine.
We plug it. And so even though I have it, so just keep it plugged in. And I think I set it at like 80%, and that's fine as long as when it gets around to 12:30 in the morning.
That's frequent enough.
Okay,
yeah.
Just making sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
John, you have a question? John L?
Yes. I can't plug it in. It's parked in a lot. And so I go to superchargers to charge it. I found that if I turn all the things off in the car, fans, everything, and I close the car and I disable the app, I close the app, I lose almost nothing overnight. Maybe 1 mile, which is about 3%, a third of a percent, pardon me. So I would prefer to plug it in, but it's not available.
Yeah, I do the same thing with an app I have called TesLab. It's got one button on it that allows me to put the car to sleep, and it shuts all those things off automatically. And
TesLab?
TesLab, yeah. And I like it. And when I'm on a trip or something and I'm in that situation, that's what I do.
Yeah, and one way too, like John, like you were saying, if you keep Sentry mode off, if you don't have the cabin overheat protection, those are ways to just make sure that you're not getting any, battery loss that you don't want to get. However, then you have to balance it and say, am I willing to not have my Sentry mode or cabin overheat? I'm going to look.
Can I just chime in real quick here? I wanted to say that charging over 90% has a side effect, and that is you lose your regen.
Right.
So don't be surprised if you'll rear end a car if you've charged over 90. The only time you really need 100% is if you're going on a trip where you'll have a long distance before the next charging station, or if it's especially cold. But in most cases, going up to 90 but not beyond is perfectly fine. Just enjoy the car.
So there was a little bit more clarity too on the manual emergency lock with the Tesla. So on your I don't know what it's called. Just I guess if you're driving right next to your arm where you would open up the door, closest to the door handle, there's a little latch that you can pull up, and it's the manual release. The purpose of that is if your 12-volt dies, the whole car, there's no electrical system whatsoever going on in the car. It's a physical release to open up the door. So that's what that is. However, typically you want to use a little button. On the older cars, on mine, it has just a line. On the newer one, I believe it's actually a little picture of the door opening. So you really don't want to use that emergency release latch. It's only for emergencies. Like we said before, it won't really do damage unless it's done frequently. And I haven't actually ever heard of anyone who's had any damage done to their car from that.
But I now remind everybody that gets in my car not to touch.
Right, doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt to remind people, that's for sure.
Under a death threat, really.
All right, I don't see actually any more in the chat. If you have any questions, like I said, fire them away. If there's anything that any of our panelists can give as far as input on best practices.
I'm sorry, the gentleman, not to touch what now?
Oh, so you have a Model 3, right, Dan?
Model Y.
Model Y. So I think it's the same on the 3 and the Y. By the door handle, like, when you hold onto the door and you push it out or pull it in, just below that, there's a little latch that you can pull up, and that is your physical emergency opening for the door. I don't know the proper term for it, just I guess emergency open latch.
Oh yeah, the little, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's a physical thing that you will pull up on. So you would have to be pulled on frequently for it to do any damage. It's not damage per se, but it could potentially misalign it. And at worst case scenario, you bring it into Tesla and they would realign the door for you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to use that.
I have a couple of things I'm going to go over and keyed on things that you said before. One, you said you're going to keep your car for 10 years, and I think that's totally reasonable because I honestly believe that EVs are a whole new paradigm in car ownership. Again, speaking as an electrical engineer and knowing the longevity of these things, motors are nothing like engines. Motors will last a really long time. You have Teslas already with 750,000 miles on them. These cars are going to last a long time. You don't have the same problems as you have with an ICE vehicle. You don't have engines, you don't have transmissions, you don't have mufflers. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but I'm just, this really needs to sink in. And this is the argument that we need to give to all of the people that still have ICE vehicles that are asking, should I get an EV? Is it really worth it? It is in spades. Really, the only thing that we have that's in common with ICE vehicles is the suspension, which is fairly easy to fix. I mean, we do, I liked Patrick's suggestion of hitting the brakes when you first get into the car to make sure they're working, because we use regen so much. But suspension is pretty easy to fix, right? Then you have the interior, and if you keep, if you take care of your interior when your car is new and you use decent products on it now, remember, we can only slow down aging. We can't stop it. So do something now and it'll last a long time. And then it's the exterior, and do something like, take care of the exterior of the car, wrap your car, or if you don't wrap your car, use like something like graphene or something, a little bottle, like $27. It'll do wonders for your paint and everything. And these cars will last 8-10 years. It's not going to be, I used to buy a car every 3 years. I think we're going to buy a car every 5 or 6 now, or maybe every 10, like you said. So I think we need to tell this to all of the non-EV owners. And also, I think somebody was saying that this is a large expense. It's not a large expense. EVs are not large expenses. When you consider the total cost of ownership, now this car is going to last twice as long as a normal car. And during that period of time, you're not paying for any maintenance or hardly any maintenance, and you're not paying for any gas, no oil. Your inspections are like a fraction of what they
still have windshield wiper fluid though. Don't forget.
Oh, that's right. I almost forgot windshield wiper fluid.
It's pretty much the only one.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost wasting money buying an ICE car, right? So anyway.
Yeah, I rent. I'm on the road a lot, so I rent ICE cars. I'm like, oh no, okay. If I step on the accelerator, it's going to take a full second to respond, and I'm so used to the Tesla, just like instantly, That's number one. Number two is, oh no, I've got to brake when I'm approaching a stoplight, and number three, I have to drive the car actually instead of using autopilot. So it's great having an electric car.
All right, I'm going to take another question from the chat over here. It's on, and this is going to change based on the vehicle you have. So is there an emergency release in the backseat doors? On the Model 3, as far as I know, there's no way to get to it besides, I think, like breaking the plastic. There's some large procedure to get to it. So as far as I know, unless they changed it, they might have changed it on the newer vehicles, but on my 2018, I don't believe there's an emergency release hatch on the back. So it's something you 100% don't have to worry about. On the new S and X, on the refresh, they put the physical release in the middle seat, directly like under where, like pretty much if you were to just grab between your legs, right there, there's a release hatch. On the Y, I don't think there's, I mean, it's very similar to the 3. I don't believe there's a hatch. Jess, do you know of any physical release in the back?
No, I don't. I was just Googling.
Okay, gotcha. So something you really won't have to worry about anyone in the back. Or
There
Richard,
is one in the Y. Yeah, it's underneath. You have to peel back the door storage bin. Yeah, and supposedly there's a cable that works.
Yeah,
but I don't have a Y, so I can't tell.
Gotcha. Yeah, John. Right, there's a little rubber flap I think you lift up, and then under there on a like a ring of sorts, you pull a metal cable. Is that what it is?
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've seen that.
That's what I've heard.
Gotcha. Here's another question from the chat box. After taking my Model 3 for service and the service department used their own key card and deactivated us, the walkaway door lock stopped working. I can't reactivate it in the car screen and it doesn't light up. Highlighted to the touch click to touch click it. Any suggestions? So let me just read that again. I'm trying to figure that out. So after taking my Model 3 for service and the service department used their own key card and deactivated us, the walkaway door lock stopped working. I can't reactivate it in the car. I can't reactivate it in the car screen and it doesn't light up. I've never heard of this issue before. I guess Shanti, if I pronounce your name correctly, I would go to the service center, have them come out to you and address that. I wouldn't spend too much time figuring that out. If it seems like it's just something that's really off, it's not working, get them to either mobile service or go to a service center. Unless anyone else has any input, it seems like something you should be able to fix through the settings, but I haven't heard of that before. See, there's a question. Does anyone okay, so Richard, I hate to answer this one. Does anyone in New York State have the FSD beta yet? I don't think this is against me saying this. So as far as I know, no, none of us normal folks here, we don't have it, but I do believe, or I do know that a couple of Tesla employees actually have it. There's quite a bit of Tesla employees who actually have the beta. I'm guessing they're held to some higher standards as far as their employees, so there's a little bit more on the line compared to us as, you know, supporters or just want to get that next level of technology. So no, as far as I know, there's not a single soul in New York that is not a Tesla employee who has beta. They just did their version 9 release. I was really hoping that at least someone in the club, someone in club leadership, I was like, maybe Patrick. None of us have it. So if that's any consultation, like you know, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So as far as I know,
there is a club member in Connecticut with it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
A club leader or just a
no, not a club leader, but
really?
A club
Wow.
member.
Well, good for them. Okay, so it's making its way around. I know someone in Rhode Island who has it. Yeah, but so places that are cold who have it. There's a guy in Michigan, so it's not like we're, you know, oh, it's New York, it's snowing there 24/7. I don't know. We just I think we're a little we scare the system. Just once they go down to New York City and they see the traffic, it's
our reputation precedes us.
Right. Benjamin, you have your hand raised?
So say if I could just follow up a little bit on the cost of a Tesla as opposed to an ICE car. I had kept track of all of the expenses that I've done over the entire 2 3/4 years that I've had the car. And the only major expense I've had so far has been tires. I had a complete set of tires put on. The second most costly, other than the overall charging, was windshield washer fluid, as you mentioned. And other than that, it's been nothing. And I calculated I'm just around 4 cents a mile for driving. That's way, way, way less than anybody with an internal combustion engine car is ever going to experience. And that includes supercharging to and from Florida twice a year for our snowbird trips. And can't beat that with a stick, so I'm way ahead.
Yeah, Richard actually put a blog up that got a lot of traction on our website.
Yes, thank you.
That did very well. But I think it came out to just under $70, right, for the charging for there and back.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, not bad, especially now with gas prices going up even more. So
that's right.
Yeah.
I can add a little bit to that too. Don't forget about resale value. Someday you're gonna have to sell your car. So the direction of the future is they're gonna, ICE car is gonna go away. So the used car market for ICE car, the pricing is gonna plummet as everybody try to sell the ICE car and moving into electric vehicles. So the electric vehicle over the long term is going to maintain value, whereas the ICE car over the long term is going to depreciate. It's going to at a quicker rate. So I'm totally echo what Dan was talking about. That if you want a total cost of ownership, you can also include the resale value of the vehicle at the end of ownership as well too. So this is my 2 cents.
I'll finally be able to afford a Ferrari, right? All right, Benjamin, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask, so I have took delivery of my Model 3 about 3 weeks ago. So lucky to enjoy it in the nice weather.
Congrats.
But I live here in Syracuse, so I know I'm going to have winter. I know how to prep a car for winter. I'm not worried about the handling or anything. I had a rear-wheel drive car before this, so dual motor will be fine. My questions more pertain to the usability, outdoor use, and battery life in the winter. I do not have a garage. I charge at home, and luckily my commute is only about 7 miles, 19 miles total in a day usually I'm doing, so I don't have to worry about battery life there. But if I go on a trip, what kind of expectations or tricks, tips that any of you use when driving in the winter? Any hiccups you've experienced overall in the snow?
John, your car is parked outside just about all the time, right?
No, I have a garage, but
okay,
it's unheated. And I did a measurement, and I only lose 7% efficiency in the winter. 7%. So it does take longer to charge, and it takes obviously longer to heat the cabin and keep it maintained. But if your Model 3 is new, it will have a heat pump, and the heat pump is super efficient. Even if it's old, you can use your heated seats, which are about 80 watts maximum, versus the cabin heater, which is maybe 6 or 7 kilowatts. Still, you could run that cabin heater all day long at full blast before you run out of your battery. So if you ever get stranded, your seat heaters are your friend. You'll be there for weeks with the seat heaters. Dan, don't do the calculation. I'm sure it's maybe not weeks, but I would not be too concerned. As long as you use the seat heaters, keep the temperature, say, in the low 60s, you should be perfectly fine. Do get winter tires, though. That's the one thing I recommend, and the car will be a beast.
Yeah, if you put winter tires on a dual motor Tesla, it's a tank. I have $70 tires on my car. Did it as a science experiment. I would not suggest doing it. I brought it to the drag strip. I got my best ever time. I've driven through the snow with those. They handle just fine. The performance of a dual motor electric vehicle, especially a Tesla, it could take garbage tires and turn them into fantastic tires. Once again, would not recommend doing that. Go for some quality snow tires, and you'll have an absolute tank in the winter time. John L., did you have your hand raised?
Yes, I do. I have a question. Just for Dan, I downloaded that Tez Lab app, and it needs to be authorized by Tesla to get access to the car. I suspect I'm going to see them soon next week, so I think I might have to get them to do it up there.
No, it doesn't. It's the authorization is your passcode, so it needs your approval to talk to your car. So it needs the same authorization that you gave your own Tesla.
When I press authorize it through Tesla, it says can't do that. I don't know. I'll figure it out.
Gotcha. One little tidbit or just word of information, point of information. From what I've heard on the inside, Tesla plans to cut any, I don't know if this is the right technical way of putting it, but like API integrations or something like Tesla in the near future. I've heard that they are planning to cut any connections with third-party apps. I guess use it for now while you can, but long term, just note that it might be something they get rid of. They have plans to get rid of it.
No point.
That would be unfortunate because it gives a lot of good information.
Yeah, I think.
Speaking to Benjamin about winter driving, make sure that you also put it into departure mode so that the battery in the interior of your car gets ready for you to leave.
Definitely. And if you preheat your car too, now I have a garage, I work from home, but I used to have my car parked outside for 8-9 hours a day at least. And you will, like John was saying before, if you charge past 90, you'll lose some of your regen. If you leave your car parked outside in the wintertime, you'll lose some of your regen. So a way to fix that, preheat your car for, it serves two benefits. Your car is going to be nice and toasty when you get in it, but it'll also warm up the batteries, which will give you back a substantial amount of your regen in the wintertime. I think, Richard, do you have a question?
Yeah. Just a quick observation. They're talking about winter driving. I was a little concerned when I first got the Tesla Model 3 and the enhanced autopilot, and I wondered how it would react to a snow-covered road. And I had an opportunity in November that year, and I was amazed that it could see the road better than me. So I understand it's got all of the programming from everybody else that's driven down that road and knows where it should be, even if it can't see the exact white lines on the road, even for the snow. I was really impressed. So, yeah, for what it's worth.
There's a question by Yalverton. Is there any issues for not using the car for months or weeks on end, or months or weeks at a time? So there's a very simple fix. If you're not going to use it for a long time, I'll just send it up here to Albany and I'll take care of it for you. John actually put a note in there. He said, watch Tesla Joy channel on YouTube. She did a video. I think she left her car at the airport. And she did, I believe, 2 experiments. One where she had sentry mode and cabin overheat protection. I could be wrong on this, but I think she did 2 versions. So yeah, if you know that you're going to leave your car for weeks on end, I spoke with a member who I believe was going down to Florida, and they were going to leave their car. I can't remember if it was in New York or Florida, but they said, is it okay to leave it, in one place unplugged for, weeks on weeks? It depends. You'd want to leave it charged. Don't get to the airport and only have 10% of range left on the car, right? Like we said before, that'll do some damage to the battery if it stays there for months. But yeah, if there's any other input on that, as far as, and like John said, you could probably type in Tesla Joy, what battery test, John? Do you know the name of it? Something along those lines. Yeah.
If you go to an airport, you could put the car even in the middle of the summertime, you could put the car completely to sleep and turn everything off, but you need to be in a car garage. You can't leave the car in the sun because the cabin will overheat and you'll do damage to the display. So be careful of that. If you have to park out in the open where the sun's going to bake it, don't ever turn the cabin overheat off.
Dan, you might be able to actually, I don't know the answer to this too, but on top of that, as far as leaving the car in the sun, say you don't have cabin overheat protection on, the main damage you'd have to worry about, is it only to the screen? Can it damage chips?
It's just the screen.
Just the screen? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And the temperature that the screen's going to get damaged at is well over 100 degrees. It's like don't quote me on this, but it's like over 120 degrees. So unless you're in Arizona, but even in Arizona, if you're in a car garage in the shade, it's not going to be 120 degrees.
Seattle.
Seattle? The rain will keep it cool, right? Yeah. So there's a question I saw before. I can't find it. Oh, there it is. So it was about Dan, about your PPF that you have on your car, the products to use. So Dan, if you want to talk about why you did PPF, maybe if you're comfortable with it, the cost of it.
Okay, so this is the first car I've ever done PPF on, and
PPF is paint protective film.
Yeah, paint protection film, right? So I've always had expensive cars. One expensive car. My wife and I have normal cars, and then one expensive car. The list of the last expensive cars, I had a BMW M7, an Audi RS7. The last car before my Model X was a Maserati Quattroporte, and then now my Model X. None of them had paint protection film. I kept all of them for about 3 years and then got rid of them. But then I got my Model X. And as an electrical engineer, as I said before, I honestly believe that this is a completely different paradigm of car ownership. So I looked at it and I was thinking, this is going to stick around for a while. So I protected the outside. I thought that for the first time, this is going to make sense for me to do this. So I spent about, I guess it was $5,500. If I had a bunch of things done, so that's why I don't really know how much it cost. It was about $5,500 to do the paint protection film. I still would do it again right away if I bought the car. I expect to own this car for at least 6 years, and probably give it to my son after I'm done with it.
Thanks,
as
Dad.
far as on the outside of the paint protection film, I use graphene. I did have ceramic coating put on it. That was another couple of $1,000s. I felt that was a waste of money because, and that was the first time I ever used ceramic coating too. They gave me this ceramic coating boost. I had to put that on every 90 days to boost the ceramic coating. I was like, wait a second, I thought ceramic coating got me away from waxing. And now here I am waxing every 90 days. So then along came this stuff called graphene and from 303. And I tried that and I put it on and I went through the entire winter and the water was beating on there like a madman. And I loved the stuff, and it was $27 for this little bottle of graphene. So yeah, that's what I do now.
All right, I don't see any more questions in the chat. There was one note too, like we are having an event at the Saratoga Auto Museum this Saturday. Dan, you said you're having an event on the 25th, right?
Yeah.
There's a Finger Lakes golf outing. This is our second annual Finger Lakes golf outing on the 25th. Our camping trip will be on the 30th to the 1st. That is Crazy Acres Campgrounds, I believe is the name of the location. And that's events, I believe, at the end of July. I'm just wrapping things up here. I'll make one other announcement. If you haven't seen it yet, if you're in the Rochester area or Buffalo or Central, you probably got an email the other day. We are hosting the official grand opening for Tesla Henrietta. They have a service center and gallery. So to celebrate that, we are hosting their official grand opening for them. So that's going to be on August 28th. We do need some volunteers for that, for some positions. If you're available, it'd be greatly appreciated. But no matter what, we'd love to see you there. So there'll be more details coming out about the specifics on that. But the date will be the 28th, August 28th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Just a little heads up for everyone. But if there's no more questions, I don't believe there are. I guess thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any other questions, I put my email in there. It's stephenp@tocnys.org. And also you could just email the club one. I'll answer to that too. It's info@tocnys.org.